The security guard's hand pressed against my shoulder like a brick wall. "Family only," he said, his voice mechanical and cold. I stood there in my carefully chosen dress, the one I'd spent 3 months' savings on, clutching the gift-wrapped crystal vase that had cost me another 2. My fingers trembled around the satin ribbon. "There must be a mistake," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Nathan's mother." The guard's expression didn't change. "Ma'am, I have strict instructions. Your name isn't on the list." Over his shoulder, I saw my son standing in the golden glow of the reception hall. Our eyes met for just a moment before he deliberately turned away, leaning to whisper something to his new wife, Vanessa. Her family surrounded them. Wealthy, polished people who looked like they belonged on magazine covers. 10 minutes earlier, I'd watched the ceremony from across the street, hidden behind a tree like some kind of criminal. I'd seen my only child, my beautiful boy, exchange vows with a woman I'd only met twice. I had pressed my palm against my mouth to muffle my sobs as guests in designer clothes filed into the venue, people who would witness what I had dreamed of seeing since the day Nathan was born. "Wait here," the guard said, stepping inside. He approached my son, who glanced in my direction with a look I'd never seen before. Not anger or sadness, but worse. Nothing at all. 3 months ago, everything had been different. Nathan had come to me desperate. "Mom, Vanessa's parents want to cancel the wedding. They say we can't afford the venue she wants." His eyes had been filled with panic. "I can't disappoint her. This is her dream." Without hesitation, I had handed over my wedding ring, the only thing of value Richard had left me when he walked out 15 years ago. "Take it," I'd said. "It should cover the deposit." Nathan had hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "You're saving us, Mom. I'll pay you back, I promise." The next day, he pawned the ring for $8,000. "I'll invite you for dinner to meet Vanessa's family properly," he'd promised. That dinner never happened. His calls became less frequent, his excuses more elaborate. When I pressed him about the wedding details, he became evasive. "It's going to be small," he'd said. "Very intimate. Vanessa's father is handling everything." Now I understood what intimate meant. The security guard returned. "Sir says there's been a misunderstanding. He confirms you weren't invited." Something snapped inside me. All those nights I'd worked double shifts when Nathan was growing up. The college tuition I'd scraped together by cleaning other people's houses. The birthdays I'd celebrated with homemade cakes because we couldn't afford bakery ones. It all crashed down on me at once. I stepped past the guard before he could stop me. My heels clicked loudly on the marble floor as I walked straight into the reception hall. The music faltered. Heads turned. Conversations died. I stopped in the center of the room, my heart pounding against my ribs. Nathan stood frozen by the head table, Vanessa's hand clutching his arm. Her father, a man I'd never met, rose slowly from his seat. "This is my son's wedding," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. I sold my wedding ring to help pay for it. The silence in the room was absolute. I could hear the ice clinking in champagne glasses, the distant kitchen sounds. "Mrs. Crawford," Vanessa's father said, stepping forward. "This is unfortunate. Nathan told us you agreed not to attend due to personal issues." I looked at my son, waiting for him to defend me, to say something, anything. His face had gone pale, but his lips remained pressed in a tight line. "Nathan," I said. The gift was still in my hands, suddenly feeling impossibly heavy. Vanessa whispered something in his ear. He cleared his throat. "Mom, this isn't the time or place. We can talk about this later." "Later?" The word felt hollow. "When would that be? After you've pretended I don't exist to your new family? After you've erased every trace of where you came from?" Vanessa's mother stood now too, her diamond earrings catching the light. "Perhaps we should call security again," she said quietly. I unwrapped the crystal vase, my fingers moving mechanically. It had taken me 6 months to save for it, choosing something I thought would be worthy of their elegant home. I held it up, letting the light refract through it. "I wanted to give you this," I said, "but I think I have something more valuable to offer instead." I reached into my purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. My hand was steady now as I unfolded it. "What I'm about to tell you will change everything in this room." I said, looking directly at Vanessa's father. And it starts with what your future son-in-law did with the money from my wedding ring. Nathan's face transformed from embarrassment to fear in an instant. He started moving toward me, but it was already too late. The truth I had discovered only yesterday was about to spill out like blood on the pristine white tablecloths, and nothing would ever be the same again. That money never went to the venue, I said, my voice echoing in the now silent hall. The deposit had already been paid in full by Vanessa's parents. Nathan lunged forward. Mom, stop. Your son took my wedding ring, the last valuable thing I owned, and used the money to pay off gambling debts. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Vanessa's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. I held up the paper in my hand. This is a receipt from Golden Palace Casino, dated the same day Nathan pawned my ring. He lost everything within hours. I hadn't meant to find out. Yesterday, while cleaning my apartment, I'd discovered Nathan's jacket, the one he'd left behind during his last visit. In the pocket was a crumpled receipt and a pawn ticket, both with the same date. The pieces had fallen into place with sickening clarity. That's enough, Nathan shouted, his face flushed with anger and shame. You're ruining everything. I ruined everything? My voice broke. I worked 3 jobs to raise you after your father left. I went hungry so you could eat. I wore the same clothes for years so you could have new ones for school. Vanessa's father stepped between us. Mrs. Crawford, I think you should leave. Whatever issues you have with your son can be addressed privately. Did you know? I asked Vanessa directly, ignoring her father. Did you know about his gambling? Her perfectly made-up face crumpled slightly. She glanced at Nathan, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. She doesn't know anything, Nathan said quickly. This is all a misunderstanding. Is it? I challenged. Tell them about the calls I got from your creditors last month. Tell them about the men who came to my apartment looking for you. The crystal vase felt heavy in my hands. I set it down carefully on the nearest table. I didn't come here to ruin your wedding. I came because I thought I still had a son who respected me enough to want me here on the most important day of his life. Nathan's expression softened slightly, guilt seeping through the cracks of his anger. For a moment, I saw my little boy again, the one who'd curl up beside me during thunderstorms, who'd drawn me world's best mom cards every Mother's Day. Mrs. Crawford, Vanessa's mother said, her voice gentler than I expected. Perhaps we can discuss this somewhere private. Before anyone could move, Vanessa stepped forward. I want to hear more, she said, her voice surprisingly steady. She turned to Nathan. Is this true? Do you have a gambling problem? The silence that followed was answer enough. It's under control, he finally said. It was just a rough patch. I haven't placed a bet in weeks. A bitter laugh escaped me. That's what your father used to say, too. Don't compare me to him, Nathan snapped. I'm nothing like him. Then prove it, I said. Tell the truth, for once. The weight of all eyes in the room pressed down on us. This lavish wedding, these wealthy people, they represented everything Nathan had always wanted. Everything I couldn't give him. I suddenly understood with painful clarity. I was the living reminder of his humble beginnings, the past he wanted to erase. Vanessa's father cleared his throat. Nathan, I think we need to have a conversation. His tone was measured but cold. If what your mother says is true. Mr. Harrington, please. Nathan's voice took on a desperate edge. This is all just a big misunderstanding. My mother has been struggling lately. Ever since Dad left, she's had these episodes. Episodes? The word struck me like a physical blow. Is that what you're telling them? That I'm crazy? Something flickered across Nathan's face. A calculation. A decision being made. Mom, you know how you get sometimes. The doctor said, don't you dare. My hands were shaking now. Don't you dare make up lies about me to cover your tracks. A woman I didn't recognize stepped forward from the crowd. One of Vanessa's bridesmaids, judging by her dress. Actually, she said hesitantly, Nathan asked me to lend him money last month. He said it was for a surprise for Vanessa, but he seemed really stressed about it. The room erupted in murmurs. Nathan's facade began to crack. Vanessa, baby, please. He turned to his bride, ignoring everyone else. It's not how it sounds. I can explain everything. But Vanessa had backed away, her father's arm now protectively around her shoulders. The beautiful wedding cake behind them suddenly seemed grotesque in its excess. 6 tiers of fondant and sugar flowers that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "I think," Vanessa said slowly, "we need to postpone the reception." "What?" "No." Nathan's composure completely collapsed. "You can't be serious. All because my mother decided to show up and cause a scene." "All because you lied, Nathan." Vanessa corrected him, her voice growing stronger. "About something important. What else haven't you told me?" I hadn't come here expecting this outcome. As the reality of what was happening sank in, I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness. This wasn't a victory. This was a tragedy, one with no winners. I turned to leave, suddenly exhausted by it all. I'd said what I came to say. The crystal vase sat abandoned on the table, a gift no one wanted. "Mom, wait," Nathan called after me. When I looked back, his face had changed again. The anger was gone, replaced by something worse. The manipulative charm I'd seen his father use countless times. "I need your help. You can fix this. Tell them you were confused, that you made a mistake." "I can't fix this for you, Nathan," I said quietly. "Not anymore." As I walked toward the exit, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. I turned, expecting Nathan, but found Vanessa instead, her wedding dress rustling as she moved. "Mrs. Crawford," she said, slightly breathless, "there's something you should know about Nathan. Something I discovered last week that changes everything." She glanced over her shoulder nervously, then leaned closer to whisper in my ear. As her words registered, I felt the floor shift beneath my feet. What she revealed wasn't just about gambling debts or pawned wedding rings. It was something far worse. Something that explained why Nathan had been so desperate to keep me away from his new family at all costs. "Your son has been stealing from my father's company," Vanessa whispered, her voice trembling. "He's been embezzling money for months." The world tilted beneath my feet. "That's impossible," I said automatically. But even as the words left my mouth, a sickening doubt crept in. "I found the records last week," Vanessa continued, her eyes darting back to where her father was now engaged in a heated conversation with Nathan. "Dad made Nathan assistant financial manager 6 months ago as a wedding gift. Nathan's been creating fake vendor accounts and transferring company funds into them. I recalled Nathan's sudden upgrade in lifestyle, the new car, the expensive watch, the lavish dinners he mentioned in passing. I'd assumed they were gifts from Vanessa's family, or that he'd finally received the promotion he'd been hoping for at work. "How much?" I managed to ask. "Over $200,000, Vanessa said, her voice barely audible. "I confronted him 3 days ago. He swore he would tell my father everything after the wedding. He said he needed the money to cover gambling debts, that dangerous people were threatening him." Her eyes filled with tears. "I believed him when he said it was just that one time, that he would fix everything." The pieces fell into place with terrible clarity. Nathan hadn't uninvited me because he was ashamed of his working-class mother. He'd kept me away because he knew I would see through him, just as I'd always seen through his father's lies. "Does your father know?" I asked. Vanessa shook her head. "I wanted to give Nathan a chance to come clean himself. I thought—" She trailed off, looking at her elaborate wedding dress with bitter irony. "I thought love meant giving someone a second chance." Before I could respond, Nathan appeared behind her. "What are you telling her?" he demanded, grabbing Vanessa's arm. I stepped between them instinctively. "Don't touch her like that." Nathan's eyes narrowed. "So now you're taking her side? My own mother?" "This isn't about sides," I said. "This is about what you've done." "What I've done?" he hissed, lowering his voice as guests pretended not to watch our confrontation. "I've done what I had to do to survive. Those gambling debts weren't just to a casino. I owe people, dangerous people. They threatened to hurt me, to hurt you if I didn't pay." "So you stole from Vanessa's father?" I asked incredulously. "That was your solution?" "It was a loan," he insisted. "I was going to pay it all back after things settled down." Vanessa made a small, disbelieving sound. "With what money, Nathan? Your gambling winnings?" For a moment, I saw raw panic flash across my son's face. Then, like a mask sliding into place, his expression transformed. He turned to Vanessa, his eyes softening, his voice becoming gentle. "Baby, please," he said, reaching for her hand. "I did it for us, for our future. I got in over my head, but I'm going to make it right." He glanced at me. "My mom doesn't understand what it's like to want more from life. She's always been satisfied with just getting by." The casual cruelty of his words stung, but I recognized the tactic. Richard had used it too, turning my strengths into flaws, my sacrifices into failings. "Your father used to say the same things," I said quietly, right before he emptied our bank account and disappeared with his secretary. Nathan flinched as if I'd slapped him. "I'm nothing like him." "Then prove it," I said. "Go to Mr. Harrington right now and tell him the truth. Return the money. Face the consequences of your actions." "Are you serious?" Nathan's voice rose. "He'll call the police. Is that what you want? To see your only son arrested at his own wedding?" "I want to see my son take responsibility for once in his life," I replied. Vanessa's father approached us, his face grim. "Nathan, we need to talk. Now." Nathan straightened his shoulders, smoothing his expression into one of calm confusion. "Of course, sir. I think there's been some misunderstanding today." As they walked away, Vanessa turned to me. "I loved him," she said simply. "I really did." "I know," I replied. "Me too." We stood in silence, watching as Nathan followed Mr. Harrington into a side room. The wedding guests had formed small clusters, whispers and stares making it clear that our family drama had become the main event. Vanessa's mother appeared at her daughter's side. "Darling, I've asked the band to take a break. Perhaps we should." She trailed off, noticing me. Her eyes were not unkind as she added, "Mrs. Crawford, I'm sorry for how you've been treated today." I nodded, suddenly feeling out of place in this world of wealth and privilege. "I should go." "Actually," Vanessa said unexpectedly, "I'd like you to stay." Before I could respond, a commotion erupted from the side room. The door burst open, and Nathan emerged, his face flushed with anger. Mr. Harrington followed, phone in hand. "You can't do this!" Nathan shouted. "You're making a huge mistake." "The mistake was mine," Mr. Harrington replied coldly, "for trusting you with my company and my daughter." Two security guards approached, responding to Mr. Harrington's signal. Nathan's eyes darted around the room, looking for escape or sympathy. When his gaze landed on me, desperation replaced anger. "Mom," he pleaded, "you have to help me. Tell them I'm not like Dad. Tell them I can fix this." For a moment, I saw my little boy again. The child who'd come to me with scraped knees and broken toys, trusting that I could make everything better. But he wasn't that child anymore, and I couldn't fix this for him. "Nathan," I said gently, "you need help. Real help. For the gambling. For everything. So that's it? You're abandoning me when I need you most?" His voice cracked. "After everything I've done for you?" The question hung in the air between us, so absurd I almost laughed. Instead, I felt a strange calm settle over me. "What exactly have you done for me, Nathan?" His face contorted with rage. "I got you out of that pathetic apartment. I was going to buy you a real house once Vanessa and I were married. I was going to give you the life you deserved." "With stolen money," I said quietly. "You self-righteous bitch," he spat, his mask completely gone now. "You've always been jealous of my success, of my chance to be better than you." The guards moved forward, but Nathan was faster. He bolted toward the exit, shoving guests aside. In the chaos that followed, someone screamed. There was a crash, the sound of breaking glass. And then, cutting through the noise with chilling clarity, 3 words from the hotel lobby. "He has a gun. He has a gun." Time seemed to freeze. The words echoed through the venue, sending waves of panic through the crowd. Guests scrambled for cover, overturning chairs and tables. Vanessa's mother screamed. Security guards rushed toward the lobby, but I was already moving, pushing past the chaos toward the sound of the commotion. A terrible certainty drove me forward. I knew my son better than anyone. Whatever happened next, I needed to be there. I burst into the lobby to find Nathan standing near the entrance, wild-eyed and desperate. He was holding what looked like a gun, but as I drew closer, I realized it was just his phone in his outstretched hand. Someone had mistaken it for a weapon in the confusion. "Nathan!" I called, keeping my voice steady. "Put your hand down. Slowly." His eyes found mine, filled with panic. "They think I have a gun, Mom. They're going to call the police. Just stay calm," I said, approaching him carefully. "Lower your arm and we can sort this out." Before he could respond, security guards swarmed into the lobby, followed by Mr. Harrington. One of the guards spotted Nathan and shouted, "On the ground! Now!" "Wait!" I moved between them and my son. "He doesn't have a weapon. It's just his phone." The guards hesitated, but didn't lower their stance. Mr. Harrington stepped forward, his face rigid with controlled fury. "The police are on their way," he said coldly. "I've already informed them about the embezzlement. Whether you have a gun or not is irrelevant at this point, Nathan." Nathan's shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of him. He looked smaller suddenly, diminished. "You don't understand," he said, his voice barely audible. "These gambling debts, they're not to regular casinos. I owe money to people who don't use collection agencies. They use broken bones as reminders. That doesn't justify stealing," Mr. Harrington replied. "I know," Nathan admitted, surprising me. I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to be worthy of your daughter, worthy of this life." He gestured around the opulent hotel. "I thought I could fix everything before anyone found out. The same old pattern. Richard's pattern. Get in trouble. Make desperate moves to fix it. Dig the hole deeper. Then finally confess when cornered. As if honesty at gunpoint deserved praise." "Nathan," I said quietly, "this has to stop. The lying, the gambling, all of it." He looked at me, really looked at me, for what felt like the first time in years. "I don't know how," he whispered. In that moment, I saw him clearly, not just the manipulative adult he'd become, but the wounded child beneath, still carrying the scars of his father's abandonment, still trying to fill that void with risk and validation, and things that would never be enough. I also saw myself, the enabler, the one who had tried to shield him from consequences, who had given him everything without demanding accountability. In trying to be both mother and father, I'd failed to be either one effectively. The sound of sirens grew closer. Vanessa appeared in the doorway, her wedding dress rumpled, mascara streaking her cheeks. "They're saying you had a gun," she said to Nathan. "It was just my phone," he replied wearily. "I was trying to call a friend who could loan me money," Mr. Harrington scoffed. "More lies, more schemes." "No," Nathan said. "No more lies." He turned to Vanessa. "I'm sorry, for everything. The company money, the gambling, dragging you into my mess." His voice broke. "I did love you. That part wasn't a lie." Vanessa's expression softened slightly, but she didn't move toward him. "Why, Nathan? We could have had a good life. My father would have helped you if you'd just been honest." "Because I've never felt good enough," he admitted. "Not for you, not for your family, not for anyone." He glanced at me. "Except Mom." And I threw that away too. Police officers entered the lobby, their presence immediately commanding the room. Everything happened quickly after that. Questions, handcuffs, Miranda rights. Nathan went quietly, his head bowed. As they led him away, he looked back at me one last time. "I'm sorry, Mom." 3 simple words. Yet I'd waited years to hear them. Not just for today, but for all the lies. All the times he'd treated me as less than. All the ways he'd made me feel I was something to be ashamed of rather than proud of. The venue emptied gradually. The dream wedding dissolved into hushed conversations and shocked guests collecting their belongings. Vanessa's parents huddled with their daughter, their body language protective, closing ranks around their wounded family. I stood alone in the lobby, suddenly remembering the crystal vase I'd left inside. It seemed trivial now, but it represented months of saving, of sacrifice. I turned to retrieve it, only to find Vanessa approaching me, the vase in her hands. "I thought you might want this back," she said, offering it to me. I shook my head. "It was a gift." "Mrs. Crawford," she began, then paused. May I call you Ellen? I nodded, surprised by the request. Ellen, I should have reached out to you months ago. When Nathan started acting strangely, when I found those financial discrepancies, she trailed off. Maybe you could have helped him before it went this far. Or maybe he would have just gotten better at hiding it, I said. Nathan's problems didn't start yesterday. I've been trying to fix him for years. What will happen to him now? She asked. He'll face charges for the embezzlement. With a good lawyer, maybe they'll consider his gambling addiction as a mitigating factor. I sighed. But he needs to face consequences this time, real ones. Vanessa twisted her engagement ring, a massive diamond that caught the light. I kept hoping he would change. That's what I hoped about his father, I replied. I spent 15 years hoping. Don't make my mistake. She nodded slowly, tears welling in her eyes. I still can't believe this is happening. We were supposed to leave for our honeymoon tomorrow. 2 weeks in Bali. The mention of the honeymoon triggered a memory. Nathan asking to use my address for some surprise honeymoon documents that had arrived last month. At the time, I'd thought nothing of it. Vanessa, I said suddenly, did Nathan handle the honeymoon arrangements? Yes, she replied, looking confused. He insisted on planning it as a gift. Why? A cold feeling settled in my stomach. I need to check something, right now. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app with trembling fingers. I hadn't checked my accounts in days, too busy working extra shifts to afford the dress and gift for the wedding. When the balance loaded, I gasped. My modest savings account, the one I'd been building for years, dollar by painful dollar, had been emptied 3 days ago. All $43,000, gone. Ellen? Vanessa's voice seemed far away. What's wrong? I showed her my phone screen. Nathan used my identity to empty my savings account. My voice sounded hollow, even to my own ears. He must have gotten access when he was using my address for those honeymoon documents. Vanessa's face paled. Oh my God. It was everything I had, I whispered. My retirement, my emergency fund, everything. As the reality of what my son had done crashed over me, a police officer approached us. Mrs. Crawford, we need to ask you some additional questions about your son. I nodded numbly, but before I could follow him, Vanessa grabbed my hand. Wait, she said, her expression changing from shock to determination. Before you go, there's something you need to know. Something I just remembered about Nathan's phone. It could change everything. Nathan's phone, Vanessa said urgently. Last month, I caught him recording his meetings with my father. When I asked him about it, he claimed he was taking notes for later, but my mind raced to catch up. You think he recorded conversations about the company finances? She nodded. Possibly incriminating ones. My father sometimes bends rules to avoid taxes. Nathan might have been collecting leverage. The police officer cleared his throat. Ma'am, if you have information relevant to an ongoing investigation. I'm coming, I told him, then turned back to Vanessa. Thank you for telling me. As I followed the officer, my thoughts whirled. Could Nathan have been planning this all along? Setting up protection for himself if he got caught? It seemed too calculated for his usual impulsive behavior, yet too sloppy to be truly premeditated. At the police station, I found Nathan sitting in an interview room looking defeated. When he saw me, shame flickered across his face before he lowered his eyes. You have 15 minutes, the officer said, leaving us alone. I sat across from Nathan, placing my empty bank statement on the table between us. He glanced at it, then quickly away. My entire savings, I said quietly. Everything I had. I was going to pay it back, he mumbled. After the honeymoon, I had a system, a way to win big. Stop, I said, my voice sharper than intended. No more lies, Nathan. Not to me and not to yourself. He sat in silence for a long moment, then nodded slightly. I'm sorry, Mom. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I am. Vanessa told me about the recordings on your phone, I said. About her father's tax situation. Nathan's head snapped up, surprise evident on his face. She told you that? Were you planning to blackmail him if you got caught? He hesitated, then sighed deeply. It wasn't that calculated. When I realized what Mr. Harrington was doing with the company taxes, I started recording as insurance, I guess, just in case. And my savings? I asked. Was that also insurance? Pain crossed his features. That was desperation. The people I owe money to. They started threatening you, not just me. They sent me pictures of you leaving work, details about your schedule. I needed enough money to pay them off completely. The thought of being watched, of being used as leverage against my son, sent a chill through me. But it didn't excuse what he'd done. You could have told me, I said. We could have gone to the police together. With what evidence? My word against theirs? He shook his head. And then you'd be looking over your shoulder forever. For the first time, I glimpsed something beyond selfishness in his actions. Misguided protection, perhaps. But that didn't change the reality of our situation. The police need to know about these threats, I said firmly. And about Vanessa's father's tax issues. You need to be completely honest now. If I tell them about Mr. Harrington, any chance of leniency from his family is gone, Nathan replied. And if I tell them about the gambling debts, these people might come after you anyway. I reached across the table and took his hands. They were cold, reminding me of when he was a child with fever, vulnerable and needing me. Listen to me. You're like your father in many ways, but you're also my son. You have my strength in you too, if you choose to use it. I tightened my grip. The way forward isn't through more schemes and secrets. It's through truth, no matter how painful. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition, perhaps, of the crossroads he faced. I don't know who I am anymore, Mom, he whispered. I've been pretending for so long. Then it's time to find out, I replied. Starting now. When the officers returned, Nathan told them everything. The embezzlement, the gambling debts, the threats. And yes, Mr. Harrington's tax evasion. He handed over his phone with the recordings. The aftermath unfolded over weeks rather than hours. Nathan was charged with embezzlement but cooperated fully with authorities. The evidence he provided about the threats led to the arrest of 2 men connected to an illegal gambling operation. And Mr. Harrington found himself under investigation for tax fraud. My savings remained gone, a painful reality I had to accept. At 62, I was starting over financially, taking on extra cleaning jobs and downsizing to an even smaller apartment. 3 months after the wedding that wasn't, I received an unexpected visitor at my new place. Vanessa stood at my door, looking different in jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. May I come in? She asked. Over tea at my small kitchen table, she told me she'd been visiting Nathan in the treatment facility where he was addressing his gambling addiction. The therapist suggested family participation, she explained. I'm not family anymore, but you care about his recovery, I finished for her. She nodded. I can't be with him again. Too much has happened, but I don't want him to fail either. I understood completely. Love doesn't simply vanish, even when trust is shattered. There's something else, Vanessa said, reaching into her purse. She pulled out an envelope and placed it on the table. My father's company is being restructured following the tax investigation. As part of the settlement, they're making restitution to affected parties. I opened the envelope to find a check for $43,000, the exact amount of my stolen savings. I can't accept this, I said immediately. Your father's legal troubles aren't my concern. It's not from my father, Vanessa replied. It's from me. I sold my engagement ring. I stared at her in disbelief. Vanessa, that's too much. You don't owe me anything. It's not about owing, she said firmly. It's about what's right. Nathan took your security, your future, and in a way, I was part of that by not seeing the signs sooner. She pushed the check toward me. Please take it. It will help me move forward too. That evening, after Vanessa left, I sat by my window watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. The check lay on the table, representing not just financial security, but something more profound, recognition of my worth, of my sacrifices. Nathan would serve some time, but with good behavior and restitution, he had a chance at rebuilding his life. Whether he would take that chance remained to be seen. I would support his recovery, but I would no longer enable his deception. As for me, I was discovering a resilience I'd forgotten I possessed. The woman who had stood alone outside her son's wedding, clutching a crystal vase and wearing a dress she could barely afford, was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who had faced betrayal and heartbreak, but remained standing. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been uninvited to the most important day of my son's life, only to find myself present for the most important crossroads of his entire journey. A week later, I visited Nathan at the treatment facility. He looked healthier, clearer-eyed than I'd seen him in years. "I've been thinking about Dad a lot," he said as we walked the grounds. "About the patterns," I repeated. "Recognizing those patterns is the first step to breaking them," I replied. He stopped walking and turned to face me. "I've also been thinking about what you said, about having your strength in me, too." I nodded, waiting for him to continue. "I want to find that part of myself," he said. "The part that's you." I took his hand, weathered now to match my own. It was always there. You just weren't ready to claim it. As we continued our walk, I realized that sometimes being uninvited is a doorway to where you truly belong. Sometimes the painful exclusions in life are really invitations to something more authentic, a truer version of yourself, waiting patiently to be discovered. The crystal vase now sits on my windowsill. When the morning light strikes it, rainbows dance across my walls, a daily reminder that even broken plans can scatter unexpected beauty in their wake. And sometimes, the gifts we give ourselves, truth, boundaries, self-respect, are the only ones that truly matter in the end.